Hey, what's going on, guys? Hope you are doing all right today. We've got a fantastic interview planned for you today. We're going to be talking to Kristina with an A. I was going to say A, but it's with a K.
Yep.
Yeah,
I've never
Kristina with
seen
an
a
A.
Kristina with an A to begin, but maybe they exist
It's
somewhere.
Kristen with an A.
It's Kristina.
Well, Kristen with an A would be Kristina.
You could do that too. I've never heard
Maybe.
that one. You stumped me. That doesn't
Hey,
happen very often.
we're just spitballing here, but hey, definitely have a really exciting interview planned for you. You know, we got a chance to chat before we hit record. And I got to tell you, Kristina, you are a funny person. I definitely am excited to learn a lot about you. I think what you're doing sounds to be applicable, not only to me personally, but I know a lot of people and projects in the space. So definitely looking forward to chatting with you about that. But before we get into it, Miami, Florida, coming up 2 weeks. We will be down there in the heart.
Oh, the hot, steamy, humid weather.
Because you're
Yes.
coming from somewhere cold.
I'm coming from Toronto, Canada.
Yeah.
So this morning I talked with my wife about wonderful things that we do in Canada, which is we need to clean out the garage to put the car in so that I don't have to spend 15 minutes in the morning sweeping off the snow or scraping off the snow. So there's that.
Yeah.
I hate the cold. I
Yeah.
just hate
No,
it.
I feel you. And that's why I live in the South. But, you know, Miami, Florida, it is going to be an amazing week. So much activity for all that is Web3 and blockchain. I mean, there are a whole bunch of conferences that are happening. And not only that, but it's Art Basel. So now,
Yeah.
you know, we've got hopefully a whole crowd of people that are into art, that appreciate what we're doing in the NFT and Web3 space. And I think can hopefully provide a little happy sentiment. I know we'll all be in a great mood. I know that the crypto
Happy to know.
ecosystem is reeling right now after what's been going on. But
The shit storm, you mean? Is that what
the
you're referring
shit, the
to?
Sand Bankman fraud, crazy. What's your take on all that, really quick, before we get into what we came to talk about?
My take. I don't know enough about the details and the specifics. I don't think anyone really does. And so I don't tend to comment on that kind of stuff. I hate the fact that it is putting crypto back, which of course it is. We're all, yourself, myself, so many builders in the space are working our asses off to overcome the tough things that people say about crypto or NFTs, the stigma that's associated with it. So anytime something like this happens, it's just unfortunate to see that we have to take the 2 steps back. But I think there's a lot of encouraging things that come from moments like this. It's going to put us in a position where we're probably going to be building a whole lot longer. But that means that people that are positioned well, like yourself, like myself, like others, that we're going to be meeting at the Web3 Women Summit, we're just going to have to work a little bit harder. And we're just going to have to stay more and more focused all the time to get done what we want to get done. And that's not always a bad thing. It makes things more
No,
challenging, but it's not always a bad thing.
yeah, no, I mean, this is a time, and I hope, and anytime that I've got a microphone in my hand, or if I'm up at the podium or whatever, this is a time that I stress that, like, this market, these bad conditions, this is where the millionaires are made. The people that you see that advance to that that level that you want to be at when you see the crypto millionaires, or whatever you aspire to be, at
Mm-hmm.
whatever economic level. It's the hard work that's put in now. It's the
Yeah.
building now. It's what can you do to contribute to this growing ecosystem right now,
Yeah.
that will pay off dividends. 2024 is the next Bitcoin halving cycle, so, like, we will see some ramped up activity around then. Is what happened recently going to delay that? Who knows? Markets are markets, and they're
We wouldn't know
cyclical.
anyways, right? Like anyone that tells you that they've got it figured out is lying, just lying.
Exactly.
Like anything
Exactly.
can happen from day to day. So you don't come into this space thinking that everything is set out and is going to be this perfectly paved path. Like it's
Mhm.
not. It's the snow is falling, shit is bumpy. You don't know what's going to look like tomorrow. And that's kind of what you sign up for when you decide to come into play in the space. But with that bumpy terrain comes a lot of opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, and still, I mean, we're still early. Everyone's still early. So you're participating in the growth of the entire thing. So, like, once we get to, a mass adoption level, that opportunity is not going to be there. And that's why, we deal with the volatility. Because, like you said, it's so early, it's so young. We are building it. So yeah, we are going to experience that rocky terrain, but it
Mhm.
will be worth it in the end, as long as people stick around, don't capitulate, and keep rolling. But back to what we came to talk about. A little
Yeah.
little bit more on topic. We got the Women of Web3 Summit down in Miami, Florida. What are you going to be talking about? What brings you to this Web3 space? What do you do?
So for me, I do a number of different things. I started in this space through the Be Friends community because I'm an entrepreneur and I found Gary Vee by way of that. So my entryway into the space was kind of like what many people describe. There's this moment in time where you start to see the use cases and you start to see all the things that can be applicable to the technology itself, the underlying technology. And for me, it was a real aha moment of I started my career in professional sports. And so I saw the use cases and the applications that it could be used for ticketing, for consumer relations, for discounts, whatever it may be. Then I went to social impact and charitable endeavors, and I saw the use cases for what would transparent donations look like, and where that money is being distributed and how it's being distributed. Blockchain changes all of that. And then I did the entrepreneurial thing where I mixed social impact and technology of trying to change the data challenge that exists at most charitable organizations. They know the people that donated the dollars, but they don't have any data or information on who's being served by that. So what does that look like for the ability to collect data, to have that be transparent, to let it inform through measurement and evaluation what charities are actually doing? All of those things lined up. And when I saw that, I saw the applicability of the tech as like this underlying layer of everything we do in the next iteration of the internet. And to me, it was like, whoa, I have to be here. So that's how I came across the community. I'm ADHD. And so when I find
Me too.
something where dopamine hits, I go in hard. And so I went in really hard for about 4 months, learned everything that I possibly could, and realized over time, I'm not an artist. I would consider myself a creator, but not an artist, which was the primary use case that we were seeing at the time, and realized my value was talking about what I knew about diversity and inclusion in a space that was really, not discussing it, was very, the word I'm looking for, I forget the word I'm looking for, homogenous, that's the one. Really homogenous. And we weren't really talking about that. This was about like May 2021. And so that's the value that I started delivering to the space over time, that evolved into working with artists and creatives who are underrepresented. Over time, that turned into building personal brands, building my own personal brand. And what does that look like? And working with other artists and creatives to build their personal brand. So it evolves over time. Like we said, it's volatile, it changes day to day. But that's where my primary focus lies now, is how do we help and support Web3 creators to build their brand, to take full advantage of this opportunity. And I'm doing that through a company called Intentional.
Nice. And that's the sweatshirt that you're wearing. Intentional.
You know it.
Let me ask a question, and I want to bring something up here. Give me 1 second to put this here. Something that you do through Intentional, and I found this fascinating, and I want to make sure that I put this up here correctly. So let me get that going. There we go. So Intentional, and this is something that you do, and you have this in your Twitter bio, where you do one tip for growing a Web3 personal brand every Saturday morning. And I
Sunday
want to
AM,
make
yeah.
sure. And then Sunday, not Saturday, excuse me. So I want to make sure. There we go. I just subscribed to that right now. I told you offline, I'm possibly looking at some new brand strategies for myself, this personal brand that I'm creating for JChains. So I'm really excited. And I think that, one of the cool things about, being the MC of the conference and getting this opportunity to chat with the speakers beforehand and really learn about what you're doing, because, on stage, it's really more of a blur, and it's not so much about me getting
Yeah.
to know somebody. It's, just getting to introduce somebody, or, introduce the panel, or the fireside, whatever it happens to be. But, with this opportunity, I get a chance to learn, and with that, really like put things into play that, might benefit, my personal strategy and stuff. So like, I'm really excited to see, how that comes out. What are, and again, I just signed up for for hopefully the next tip, but in your personal opinion, or the strategies that when you coach people, what are the top 3 things that you teach people for brand strategy building?
Well, first, I really start from a place of like, for me, it's storytelling at the end of the day. And when I say storytelling, oftentimes there is a stigma associated with that. It's been kind of co-opted in the marketing world, and it tends to mean, specifically when we deal with underrepresented people, to mean trauma spilling, which is, I want to hear the most awful thing that has ever happened to you in your entire life, and I want you to tell me about that. And because of that, I'll have an empathy for you or sympathy for you, and that's how I will connect with you. I look at storytelling a little bit differently, which is like, it really needs to be the story that you as the individual want to tell. And that comes up in a number of different ways. That comes up in, how you were raised, and these kind of like catalytic moments we all experience along our path. That could be a really positive catalytic moment. That could be a really challenging catalytic moment. And over time, it develops kind of, we're able to reverse engineer why we got to where we are, right? And so for me, there's that. It's starting with the, where have you been
Mhm.
previously, and then how did that lead to your road and your journey here? Establishing that story and having it being really collaborative. Like, maybe somebody wants to hear about your trauma, but if that doesn't fit with you, then don't talk about your trauma. That's not the right thing and right position to put you in. You want to create opportunities for you to talk about the things that create joy in you, that you are able to like really show up as your authentic self. So
Right.
it's defining then, what are those things? What are the things you're passionate about? Conversation is a really big thing in Web3. We're doing this right here. Audio and audio creators are becoming a really big thing. So the next place I go is really like, what's the conversation you want to hold? If you were with friends at a bar, at a coffee shop, what's the thing that you want to talk about? Is it like specifically the NFTs? Is it the technology? Is it, building your personal brand in Web3? What's the thing that really gets you excited to talk about? What's the group of people you want to convene to have that conversation? And then how do we set that up in a way where you're able to kind of relate that to your brand, and then work towards opportunities to convene those conversations, which gets you in front of people. Maybe it's not about a specific conversation, but it's about the way you converse. Like you said, you're an MC, you show up at events, you host things. Not everyone has that talent. So focusing on the things that you're really good at, and then doubling down on the conversations you want to have, is really important. And then lastly, it's about, okay, so I've got the story that I'm comfortable sharing, and I'm comfortable showing up and talking about that. These are the things I want to talk about with that story. This is the group and the conversation I want to convene that, or the group I want to convene that conversation with. And then what's the content that I can create that adds value to those people? Those people are my community. Those
Mhm.
people are the fans that I have. Fans is loosely, community is just people at the end of the day that vibe with you and resonate with your message, and that you have something of value to offer them. So the third place is really about, what's the content that you're creating from these conversations that you're having, that are based on a story about you as an authentic individual.
Ah, I love that. I mean, it's so, being in this industry for a while, and, sometimes you just maybe overlook some of the stuff. And so I love it, like what I gather from that, and I took some notes, was establish a story, figure out what you want to talk about, and then, provide value to your community. Right.
Yeah,
Um, and-
it seems really simple. It does, but there's a lot of like limiting beliefs that come up along the way that
Mhm.
creators are faced with, right? Is like, your story might seem incredible to me, but it's your story. And so to you, it seems mundane. the thing that you love talking about, you don't see how that would add value to your community. But if you're doing something differently than I am, that's really valuable. If I follow you and I look up to you and I'm like two steps behind you, the lessons that you're learning every day could be really valuable to me. How can I learn those lessons? Those are the things that you relate back to your community.
I think that's so smart. And one of the most important things to like unpack, I think, out of most of that is community. And being you're Web3 minded, I'm Web3 minded, and a lot of people are. Community is probably one of the most important aspects that any of us have. Whether you're a content creator, whether you're a strategist, or you're a brand manager, or you're a founder of a project, you're a developer. Like your community makes everything. It makes the wheel go round of everything you need to do. Um, what are some of the ways that you encourage people to help build communities? Some of the ways that I can think of is, you find an NFT project that you like and you just get involved, right? If it's fan art, if it's shooting content, whatever it is, like you just get involved, and things tend to just like spiral from there. Like you
Yeah.
you just find a way to make things work. What are some of those strategies that you see that people either should try or have worked for some others?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why in the storytelling process, the two things that always come up are like, what are your values? And then how does your story create opportunities for human connection? I relate those like very clearly to community because at the end of the day, we want to show up and we want to support people that have similar like-minded values to us, that care about the same things that we do, and that we can like see ourselves in, whether that's like you in a mentorship position of like you're proud of that individual because they're doing the same thing, whether that's like you aspiring to be like somebody else doing something that you can't imagine doing yourself. All of these things are just points of human connection that create authentic relationships between us. So starting with what your values are, starting with okay, what throughout my story is something that could resonate with other people, those are really great ways to start, whether that's like building your own community or looking for communities that have those things. What are the values that you have, and what are the projects that also have those values? For me, that was a very clear strategy, although I didn't see it as a strategy at the time. In Web3, I found myself participating in communities that were really much so like aligned with me on what am I here for?
Right.
Am I building for the short term and the long term flip? Am I, building a community based on inclusive values and equitable values? Do I see myself represented in that community? All of those things are values that I hold, which means that my relationship is going to be stronger with the people I create around me.
I mean, again, there's just no way that I can stress it enough. And regardless of where you fit in this entire thing, is the importance of the community and how they surround you and how they support you. And I was talking to someone the other day and interviewing another speaker from the conference, and she's an artist and a musician, and she uses a lot of her community to help her shape the way the rest of a song or the rest of like whatever this piece is, based on the mood, based on the community, how everyone's feeling. It's like how the conversation of that day shapes like this particular piece of art. And I think that like that's super cool unto itself. Like there's really, I don't really know any artists that lend kind of their creativity or what they're doing, let their community in like into that way. Like that's pretty cool.
It's a key differentiator between, in my opinion, between Web3 and other places, right? Like,
Mhm.
it's not the first time community has been used. In fact, I'm often talking to underrepresented people, and my thesis and theory about why underrepresented people are so great in Web3 is because of the context and the underlying foundation of community, because underrepresented people have been building community forever, whether
Mhm.
that's political activism, whether that's human rights, whether that's charitable organization or fundraising. Underrepresented people have been in positions a lot where they've had to organize and they've had to build community that is pushing forward towards one specific thing or one specific outcome. It's like the shared values of the group is being used to make a collective outcome, right? And
Mhm.
so that's like the key differentiator. I think in a lot of ways, that's now being extended to the consumer experience, which is not something that we've really seen before. But that's where it gets really exciting as well, because so oftentimes in Web2, my experience was, you know, I would buy and I would support a brand, but there was no reciprocal value
Hmm.
exchange, right? It
Right.
wasn't mutually beneficial. It was, here, take my money, take my data, take ownership of everything that I have in exchange for a product or in exchange for, a service, whatever it is. I think that's where the dynamic changes. There's an opportunity for collaboration, but there's also an opportunity for value exchange versus value extraction, which is something that we've seen a lot in Web 2 and why a lot of us are here. That
Mhm.
model is exciting. The model that I can have an impact on somebody else, a model that I can show up and I can support and I can give, so that when I ever ask, because I've given 90% of the times and now I'm making an ask, it's not seen as an ask. It's seen as just support. That's all it
Yeah.
is. And that's a really beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And earlier, I had said, like, one of the most important pillars, in my opinion, is community, right? And the other one that I say is the access that Web3 affords, and that's basically, you validated that. Think about the opportunity, like with Twitter Space. Like, say you're fortunate enough to have gotten pulled up on stage while Elon Musk was in there or something. Like,
Right.
that doesn't happen anywhere else. Like,
Hmm.
whether you like that or not, or whether it's, like the CEO of Coca-Cola, the CEO of Disney, some of these
Yeah.
major, like, companies, like, they're not stepping into this ecosystem yet. Now they'll have to, right? Like, all of the web 2 companies are going to have to react and adapt or face extinction.
Yeah.
That's just a reality of it. But so access, and I know we're probably running low on time, and so I know you probably got to get back, but I do want to get your take on, the access that Web3 provides people, and exactly along the lines of what you said, where, like, it doesn't matter who you are. My whole thing that I say is, like, it's your value, like, much like what you said, with creating a brand and stuff. It's your value add, it's your contribution is what you should be judged on, say, in the metaverse or Web3, right?
Hmm.
Because, again, it's open to everybody. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. Like, that's the cool thing about it. If you want to
Hmm.
remain anonymous, you can. It lets people be more vulnerable. Yeah, there are some bad actors in the space, but I don't think that we need to let the exceptions be the rule, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's one of those things that, like, if we talk about values, there's the convention and then there's like the actual custom, right? I
Mhm.
think that the access point is something that the technology affords and that it provides. And for a lot of people, that initial point of access is true, right? We you can participate. I think the realities of access to all people versus it just being like a theory of like this technology allows all people is
Mhm.
different than reality. At the end of the day, like, you can access the space, but what are the limiting factors and what are the limiting barriers for specific communities? It's not necessarily available to all people. There are costs of entry, there is a very big learning curve. There's all these things that can be broken down where it shows that there are barriers. That
Mhm.
being said, I think there are barriers that part of what we're trying to do and part of what gets me really excited each day, why we called our company intentional, is because there is big opportunity here. And I believe that if you do get that access can be information, access can be capital, access can be network. If you get
Mhm.
that point of access in this space, then you get exposure. And if you're an artist, you need exposure to make income. So access, exposure equals income. If you don't get that access point, information, network, capital, you can't get the exposure. And so without that exposure, you're not going to get that money. So the part that I get really excited about is, what are the things that we can do to help creators to get that access? One of those is being clear about your story and clear about your personal brand and having a defined way of interacting and engaging with community so that people can get to know you. People can know what you're about. That's not to say that's the only way you can get access. I know that, some things are just not attainable to some folks because they're created in a very small silo and they're left to that network and left to those people. But it's,
Mhm.
what are the things that we can do that can create larger opportunities for people to get up on stage at Web3 Women Summit and to talk in front of a group of people, you've had to do a number of different things that have allowed you to get that access point. But if you had just shown up in the space yesterday, you wouldn't have gotten that access point, right? So there's all these things that, what are the ways that we can help educate people that they can help themselves then to build the brands, build the story, build community around that, and then build the content that supports that entire thing to get more people to know about you. All of those things is what leads to then, then being successful in the space, and is something we can actually control. We can't control all the factors that provide access.
Absolutely. I think that that's absolutely incredible. Just some sage wisdom from the industry. And I appreciate you taking time out of your day to chat with me. I definitely had a great time chatting with you. And I look forward to meeting you actually in real life down in Miami. And
when are you going? When are you going? What's the day? What are the plans?
Well, I'm also speaking both days down at the Central before there, so I think I'm flying in like Sunday, and then I'll probably there till I think Sunday to Sunday is when I'm gonna be there. So I'll be there for a full week because I'm gonna do the Central and then Web3 Summit, and then you gotta stick around for at least a night or something of Art Basel because that'll be fun.
You have to. Zoratopia is also happening. I think they're going to be on the 1st and the 3rd, so check that out. Latasha is an incredible creator in the space doing amazing things. Zoratopia has got to be like one of the most inclusive, fun, accessible events that I've seen in the space so far. So definitely check that out as well. But yeah, there's a lot of fun. We're gonna have a lot of fun. I'm pretty excited.
Absolutely. All right, we're gonna hit one of these new buttons here. I will pull up your Twitter account. If people want to find out more about you, they can go follow you on Twitter. It's at Flynn Kristina. Where else can people find you if they want to get in touch, learn more about, say, intentional, or anything else you got going on?
Yeah, I mean, subscribe to my newsletter is a good way to do that. That's going to be your one tip if you're really enjoying the tips that I'm able to offer here. Twitter is honestly the best place. My DMs are open. Hit me up, link me up. I love chatting with people. You want to email me? It's Kristina@web3talent.xyz. That's another way to get in touch with me. But yeah, we're just really excited about offering the value based on the lessons that we've learned, right? This, building a personal brand is hard. Showing up in the space, all the work and the effort and the failures and the challenges that come with it. With that, the idea is that we've got lessons to teach. I used to do this with NBA players, so it made sense that I brought this here to Web3, and I'm just really excited to help.
Awesome. I think you muted yourself right there at the end. But super cool. I do appreciate you joining me. You fantastic to learn from. And so definitely make sure you guys follow Flynn Kristina on Twitter. Kristina with an A, with a K. I did that twice. What's wrong with me? That's my ADD, is that I get something in my head and then
it's forgiven. Don't worry. Kristina with a K. It's all good. JChains. That's what we'll call you. JChains.
JChains with an S.
JChains with an S. JChains with a Z. We'll say.
Yes. All right. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You guys, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to smash the like button on your way out, and we'll see you for the next one. Adios.